Welcome to the Quality Conversation. My name is Serge Boudreau. In a world where recruitment often chases quantity over quality, we're flipping the script. Each episode dives into what it means to find the right talent, not just more of it. We're speaking with industry leaders like today, tech innovators and recruiters who believe in measuring success by impact, not clicks. Join us as we redefine recruitment marketing. And I have a very special guest, a gentleman that I met at the Smart Recruiter Suite at HR Tech, Josh Rock, who is the talent acquisition manager at Nuss Truck Group. Josh, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Serge. You know, we should almost have another cocktail in our hand like we did at Smart Recruiters Lounge. I mean, come on.
I know for future episodes, I'm going to make sure I send some liquor over, but we'll
Great
do
idea.
this. We'll do this at Unleash or whatever next show it is. But it's good to have you. We spend a lot of time talking about quality in hockey, which we both have a passion for hockey. We also both have a passion for recruitment marketing. So I think this makes a lot of sense for us to discuss this.
Right on. Let's go.
All right. So you've been in the industry a really long time. I don't want to age you too much, but give
20
me
years.
20 years. Give me history. How did you get to where you're at today?
Well, you know, the career of constitutional law in the U.S., you know, was pretty dry and boring. And so I pivoted actually into advertising. Was a recruitment advertising vendor, HR tech vendor for about 10 years based out of Minnesota. And then, suffered a layoff like many of us have in our career. And instead of going back into that, I flexed and went to work for my customers, teach them what I was doing as a vendor, give them control, messaging, spend, and all that, and became a practitioner. I've been doing it ever since.
It's interesting because I started the opposite way. So I started as a practitioner, then flipped over to being a talent acquisition vendor. And I think the experience on both sides is extremely helpful. And I'm sure you found it extremely important or helpful when you came into being a practitioner, leading talent acquisition teams, knowing like how the product works, right? Like what you should be looking at.
Exactly. I know it's kind of funny, you know, when you're a reformed vendor and you have every single one of these HR tech companies calling you and sending you really crappy emails, you know how to give them the kiss of death and turn them away because you've been turned down yourself so many dang times on the sales side. So it is interesting, but you know, for me, when I am working with a vendor, I can tell them or give them the right buying signals so they know that this is going to be a fruitful conversation or relationship. But for any of those that are on the HR tech side, the biggest thing that you can do if you want to sell to somebody like me is become a trusted advisor. Don't peddle your features and results. Find out what my problem is and then find a way for your product or your solution to meld and solve for that issue. Don't just tell me what new and fancy things that you have because it may not align. And same thing with staffing companies. I know there's going to be a lot of staffing folks, third-party search firms that are watching us on the interwebs later on. Same thing there. You know, not just barraging me with candidates that have no fit to my organization. I don't need a Salesforce engineer. I hate to tell you, I don't use Salesforce in my organization. So quit sending me resumes of candidates I don't need. They're not qualified. That'll get to the conversation we'll be having.
That's really good advice because I think that's a big challenge right now. Practitioners are being just overwhelmed with vendors reaching out with a potential solution to a problem that might or might not exist, and they really don't know. So they're just hard pitching. I think we all see the LinkedIn slap pitches, basically the minute that you accept the invite, in 2 minutes after you've got a pitch on a new product. I'm like, come on, give me a little bit of a break here.
Yeah, they get sent to the garbage disposal as quickly as they came in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you joined because what I really want to talk about is quality in the industry right now. And I think we both agree it's a major challenge. A lot of practitioners like you are posting a job and you're getting thousands of applicants, and the majority, and correct me if I'm wrong, the majority are not qualified or even know that they applied for your job or remember that they applied for your job. So I'd love to get your perspective, how you define what a quality candidate is. You're posting a job, you're getting candidates. How do you know what quality looks like?
You know, obviously in the diesel tech industry, we're a Mack Volvo dealer. And so we sell and service the bigger stuff, you know, than what automobiles are. I'm looking for somebody who can deliver quality work each and every day. Well, I know what that model is based on trial and error and discovery with my hiring leaders. And so my postings are going to list a set of qualifications that mirror what I'm looking for. And so as I'm looking at resumes, and we know this in the talent acquisition space, even in the third-party firm, a good recruiter, a good sourcer can delineate good talent versus bad talent in 6 to 30 seconds. They're going to decide whether they're in or out. And when I'm looking at it, I can see, have they done the experience that they need to do to fix the trucks in our environment or not? Plain and simple. After a 15, 20-minute phone screen, I send them an assessment that validates my thought process on the candidate. I package all that up, I send it to the leader, and we move forward. So for me, I can tell based on the way somebody is talking about their experience, the way they, vocalize it on their resume, whether or not they're going to be a fit with the team, but B, have the skills to do the work and support the demands of our customers.
So when those candidates apply, obviously diesel mechanics, you need to be certified.
Not certified all the time. They can just have an associate degree. I mean, we've got guys that come to us after 5 years of just fleet experience. They've not even gone to school, so they don't have to be certified. I mean, do I look for master certified technicians? Oh, heck yeah. That's a grade A caliber technician, but I'll take somebody who just graduated from a 2-year associate school or even a 9-month specialty school. As long as they've got a good bone structure to them, we'll still take a shot on some young talent. But yeah, you can search. We can go out and do Boolean strings, et cetera, to find master technicians, but the average is not even going to have a profile on most places. I mean, Indeed's really the one reservoir of potential talent, but even then it's very light. They list who their company is and I worked on this kind of truck. They don't go in depth about procedures that they've done or certifications that they've achieved just because they're technicians. That's not how they're wired.
Tell me about your process. So you've got a requisition come in, a hiring manager reaches out to you. We need to recruit for this type of role. What's your process look like?
Well, obviously the big first step is the intake with the manager. What are we looking for beyond the job description? Because that's easy. And any recruiter can look at a job description and make a plan for what kind of model, candidates they're going to look for. The intake goes deeper. What don't you have on your team? Are you looking for an A caliber, B caliber, C caliber technician? What kind of personality? What's the current dynamic of your team? Kind of figuring some of those things out with them. All of those different elements. Is this a big city role, college size, city role, or a rural role? Because that's going to change the dynamic of the kind of caliber of talent we're going to find. So going through all of those little pieces and then going in and starting to do some sourcing, some filtering, trying to find the candidates. Once I've done that, my phone interviews are pretty simple. Phone interviews are 15, 20 minutes. Some folks are going to go a little longer. You get those long-winded guys that tell you a story in about an hour. But I do leave a good amount of time to have questions for me. That phone interview really can be all-encompassing and really solidify where this relationship's going to go. Then we do a mechanics assessment. I send it via DocuSign because my current ATS provider doesn't have a good solution. We get that stuff all wrapped up, send it to the managers, get the managers who want to do an interview, and we'll either interview or in person or via remote, depending upon where they are, and continue that through to the hire.
What does that assessment look like? Is it questions?
It's all about fixing trucks. It's actually really simple. If this happens on a truck, what do you do to fix it? Those types of things. It's just a Q&A. It's 35 multiple choice and 15 short answer. It takes them 30 minutes to do. It's something that the director of operations has always required in order to do a hire. Honestly, I could probably do away with it. That's just me. But when I got here, they actually would spring it on the candidate when they showed up for their in-person interview. Talk about a bad practice.
Yeah.
Because they go in thinking that they're going in to interview with the manager or the director. And here we spring a 45-minute closed room test that they have to take. Automatically, as an employer, Advantage shuts the door because they're put on edge. They didn't know it. They weren't prepared for it. And here we go. So by having them do it from home, they can do it on their phone, tablet, laptop, very simple. They don't have to scan anything or print anything, and it's done.
It makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you. That would be a horrible experience coming in without the expectation just being sprung on. Curious, Josh, where do you get your candidates? So obviously you've gone through the process now. You're either going to be sourcing, asking for referrals, or advertising your job. Where does the majority of your candidates come from?
I'm sure they love this kind of plug, but Indeed is usually one of the bigger ones.
Okay.
It's about 85% of my candidate pool comes from there. But then we've got a great relationship with about 30 different colleges, not only here in Minnesota, but across the country. We've got a great relationship with schools like Tech. And then there's UTI schools. They're all across the U.S. So we work with those folks and other schools as well. There are specialty schools in Mac and Volvo that we go to. We're on the advisory councils of many schools, helping them design the curriculum to draw out and create the next generation of diesel mechanics. And so those two things, really the school relationships and a couple advertising vendors, are really what are doing it for us most of the time.
So what is the quality with Indeed?
It's a mixed bag. I mean, I probably get about 75%, trash bin, 25% actual functional candidates that I can use. I know that's a necessary evil. Having been in that space, I know I'm going to get a variety of candidates that just won't fit what we're looking for. But being able to quickly get through that and get to the 25% that I really need to use and harness that candidate and get them into an opportunity.
With ChatGPT, do you find now that resumes look very similar to each other, or is that not an issue in your industry?
I don't have as much issue with that. One, because most of these guys aren't great with computers anyway. So how are they going to know how to use ChatGPT? Maybe that's an oversimplification. Maybe I'm being too simplistic there, but I honestly don't think that they're using it as often in our industry as they would be in others, because they don't need to worry about that kind of competition. They're going to show what they can do more with their hands than online document. And so, no, I don't think about that too often. It doesn't keep me awake at night. If a candidate's resume is faked through ChatGPT, I can usually see through the BS of a resume pretty quickly. And honestly, the resumes that I do get, they're very simplistic. They list where they worked, they list maybe one or two details, and that's it. I mean, hell, half of them still have their high school graduation as their main point on their resume. I had one just the other day who actually had their elementary school listed in their education section on their Indeed resume. So many resumes, resumes suck. I mean, plain and simple. They're just garbage. They don't spend enough time on it. They don't have a trusted person in their network that they can say, hey, can you look at this? Is there something that I should be doing, or am I doing it wrong? And there are a number of candidates that actually I get quality, good phone screens with, and actually give them advice on how to fix their resume, because nobody's ever given it to them.
Well, I think you brought up a really good point. Do you really care about the resume for that type of role, right? It's not like they're in front of a computer. They're mechanics. They're very good at what they do, but we're asking them to do something that's maybe unnatural to them and expect them to have a resume at the quality of someone who works in the office as a knowledge worker. And I don't think that's fair at all. Am I wrong to say when you're looking at a resume, you're just looking, okay, do they have the experience? They've worked in those types of trucks and they have this certification that they need, and that's it. You're moving forward to the screen from there.
I'm looking for, do they have the foundation? Have they done it somewhere else? Have they learned it somewhere else? And I'm not going to get a full human body out of a resume, right? The resume is black and white, plain as day. The phone screen gives me the added color, to really value what that candidate's bringing to me. And then through the phone screen, I can validate what they're putting in there. I can, compound or add on to that and then sell that to the leader.
How about we dive in a little bit into recruitment advertising? Because I think if we looked at maybe the past 10, 15 years, the model has really been focused on reaching as many candidates as possible. Do you think we need to evolve from that model to better emphasize quality?
Well, I mean, when I first got into it back in 2003, God, that was forever ago. Back then, people were paying by the column inch.
Yeah.
And most recruiters are, what the hell's a column inch?
Oh, there's no recruiter that would even know what that means unless you're our age, right?
Yeah. Unless you're really OG. Yeah.
Words.
Yeah. How many words? I mean, you're paying by inches, in a newspaper. And is that success? I don't know. We started doing help wanted newspapers, then, and then, moved it over to TV and radio. At 2006, HR leaders were like, wait, I can advertise my jobs on the radio. It was foreign language to them. And they were still doing Word documents for job postings on their website. Oh my God. We hated it. It has definitely come along. I mean, cost per click was the big thing, in 2008, 2012, and then we get into cost per applicant and all that. I'd love to see some innovation here. I mean, I hear it from my Indeed partner that, it's the qualified applicant starts and all that they're merging towards. I haven't seen it really pay fruit just yet,
Yeah.
but they know they're getting haterade for it because the cost of recruitment advertising has just gone through the roof, and it's
Yeah.
not sustainable.
No.
I don't need to pay $10,000 for a $15 an hour job. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, putting that in context, quality is really hard to define. And I think for a lot of companies, and Indeed is going to struggle with this, I don't think we're going to see that clearly standardized across the industry for a really long time. And I think where the opportunity here is defining what is binary in the sense of like, do you have this certification or you don't? I think those are the things that will be the future, at least in near future, as AI evolve. I think we'll go deeper in defining, okay, this is what quality means for nursing. This is what quality means for diesel mechanics or whatever the case. But do you feel, because you talked about CPC, CPA, obviously even before that was duration-based advertising, and you still get a ton of duration-based advertising. And you lived in it working at College Recruiter, selling unlimited job ads for a certain amount.
$5,000 for unlimited job postings. I mean, every volume company would have loved that. I mean, heck, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they'd hire thousands of college kids every summer to go through their management trainee program. And they still do to this day. I mean, insurance companies, same thing. So they're, by doing that, just that volume, that score of huge volume hires. Yeah, that's a great deal. $5,000 a year for unlimited postings. It's ridiculous.
Like digging into that, if you think about what is the next model, right? And obviously Indeed tried to be cost per applicant and cost per qualified applicant, depending on how they defined it. Would you be willing to pay more for a candidate that would fit certain criteria?
Hands down. If I could pay solely for qualified master diesel mechanics, or even back when I was in healthcare, just pay for a bunch of unemployed or underemployed imaging techs, X-ray, CT, MR. I mean, yeah, and some do. I mean, when I was there, we would buy the state roster and send out mailers to, those that were board certified in the state for X-ray, CT, MR, or other disciplines. And nobody had done it before, which was crazy to me. I'm like, why wouldn't you do this the whole time? And it just started to work. And they started doing those things. I mean, you could do that on Facebook back in the day. You could put in pharmacy techs that live 50 miles from middle of nowhere, North Dakota, and you'd be able to message them that. Well, you can't do it now because they shut all that down.
They did around 4 years ago. And
yeah,
I agree. It was highly targeted. It worked really well. But with the laws in the US, I think with both employment and housing, you cannot target the same way you could on Facebook. And I do miss it, actually. I do miss a lot.
I do too. It was a godsend. I mean, I remember doing it the first time and actually doing a teaching to my team. And my managers are like, what? You're using Facebook to find candidates? I'm like, yeah. Well, you can't unring the bell. I'm like, what do you mean? What am I going to find? Well, you could find their religion and their marital status and their number of children. And I'm like, that's if you go into their profile. If all you do is look for their job title and who they are and where they live, it doesn't go in there.
Well, and you can target them. You used to be able to target them with advertising, right? Like, so you never even actually saw anything. You're just hitting the key roles of the jobs they've done. So you feel you'd be willing to pay more. Do you feel the industry would pay more in general?
I think in diesel, totally, because they're hurting for enough talent, enough quality talent in this industry. The schools just, blue collar jobs are starting to come back, but it's still not where it needs to be. You look at healthcare. When I left, we were doing 9,000 hires a year. They're doing 15,000 hires a year now in that same organization. They'd love to be able to pay for qualified applicants and not have to go through, the extra steps to get through that. I mean, the other organizations that are doing much more volume than we are would love those types of things. So yeah, I could see that coming. It's just how do we quantify that? I mean, you look in the HR tech space or HCM, you look at Dayforce. They have their own little talent marketplace now where they've pre-screened candidates, they've pre-qualified them, and you can just go in and it's almost like selecting a menu. I want this one, this one, this one, this one. And they did it for specific targeted clients that do volume hiring. It doesn't fit me. They're not going to find diesel mechanics and pre-clear diesel mechanics. I wish they would, but
Yeah.
it's not up their alley. They're doing stuff for hospitality and other areas. But yeah, I'd love to see more of that. I'd pay more for that if I had to.
I think one of the challenge in the industry that we've seen in probably the last 3 to 4 years has been easy apply. Obviously, it's been launched a lot longer with Indeed, but we're starting to see a lot more vendors really focus on it. And I think they're trying to fix a problem that came from the HCMs, right? Like really onerous type of application process that took forever is basically load your resume and then put all the information again and just create friction that was useless. And they really took the Amazon approach of one click buy instead one click apply. And to be honest, I was a big fan of it. I was a huge supporter of doing it that way because I thought removing the friction would make everything better. I don't feel the same way anymore. I think it's was just assault of applicants coming into every TA department without really any research. It's easy to apply. What's your thoughts around quick and easy apply?
We don't need to give the candidates any other simplified way to spray and pray their resumes. God, get rid of it. If we're back in 2008, where there was no jobs, and you had to find a way to get your resume out in front of more employers, fine, so be it. But in this day and age where you can still find, 1 point how many job postings on Indeed, there isn't a need to easy apply. One, because you're applying to positions that you're not qualified for. You're spraying and praying. You're just using somebody else to do it for you. It's just lazy. It is really what it is. It's not that there's not enough jobs and that you're needing to find a way to get your resume out in front of people. You're just not taking the time to do your homework to see if you're qualified for a role that you really want in the area that you're in. I mean, hell, I can go onto my Facebook Messenger right now and tell you probably 300 different names that have asked me, where are you located? It's in my freaking ad. They're not paying attention. So why are we creating tools to continue to take away the attention or the time spent? The job search is an investment on both sides, right?
It is. Well, add to it the lazy AI apply bots that basically you can apply 1,000 jobs in a day. What's your take on those?
No, get rid of them. Shut them down. I don't want it, honestly, as an employer. If somebody wants to come work for me, I want them to take the time to tell me the story about why they want to work here. Why do they want to be successful here? Nobody is that hard up, especially in the US. There are so many jobs. I mean, you can drive up and down your street and see now hiring because people can't find the talent they're looking for. Restaurants are needing to hire, hotels, hospitality organizations, bars, banks, the list go on and on. I mean, hell, I'm hiring delivery drivers at part sales. These aren't hard jobs. So you don't need to spray and pray your resume for an $18 an hour job. Come on.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Well, I think it's being done on the corporate side as well. And the argument on the other side from job seekers is like, well, you guys in recruitment are leveraging AI tools to filter us out. So
Some are.
Yeah, some are. And I think it's a whole lot less than what we see out there. Every TA practitioner that I talk to is using like an old school ATS that I know doesn't do it. So I think it's been exaggerated, but fair enough. They're saying this is like, we got to fight fire with fire and have our own tools, which I think we're going to be at the point that we're going to have an AI bot into an AI bot pretty soon. I would predict in the next,
God, I hope not.
I think it's probably already happening in some ways. What's your whole take on AI in this space?
Well, one, AI is not going anywhere. It's not going away. It's here. So on the TA side, I tell people, just embrace it, start playing with it, start using it. Because if all you do is go through the world of having a phobia about it, it's just going to consume you and it's going to consume your organization. And what are we doing? Are we not doing it? How do we do it? Just start playing with it. Get familiar with it. Find where, if your organization can use it. I mean, my organization is so small that I don't think we need it.
Yeah.
I mean, can I use it for certain things? Totally. But do I need to have it take over my chat conversations with candidates? No. Because I can go in and I can have either myself or my coordinator start the conversation and then book time with me. I tell people all the time, just embrace it. It's here. Just find how you want to harness it, what's going to work best for you and your organization, and segment out the things that won't.
I agree completely. If you're not leveraging AI, you're going to have to, so might as well learn it now. So this has been a fun conversation. It's always a
Totally.
pleasure to talk to you about talent acquisition. I think we could talk for hours. But I'm curious, anyone listening and watching this that is like, yeah, I'd love to connect with this gentleman that knows a lot about talent acquisition. What's the best place to get a hold of you?
I'm easy to find on good old LinkedIn. I'm there all the time. You can find me there. There's only a few Josh Rocks there, but yeah, you can find me there. You can find me still on X. I'm still doing Twitter.
Are you? I
Yeah,
still do too. Yeah, I
yeah.
like Twitter.
One-liners back and forth with fellow HR and HR tech leaders across the country, the occasional recruiter, and of course the hockey and
Well,
hockey
that's
folks
the
and the
thing.
foodie folks. I'm doing it all.
I think for news and sports news, there's not a better place than Twitter or X. Definitely stay away from the For You side of it. It can get a little bit tricky, but aside from that, I'm still a fan of Twitter. On that note, this has been a pleasure. I know how influential you are in this industry because I've just seen you on a bunch of lists. Congrats.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's fun to be able to play on both sides, the HR tech side of the world and the TA side. I enjoy having a hand in both sides.
Same here. Please do go check out Josh Rock on LinkedIn and connect with him because he's definitely a lot of fun to talk to. On that note, thank you for joining the Quality Conversation.
Thanks, Serge.